Hey guys, welcome to our daily encounter. A happy Easter to everyone out there. As we think about the resurrection of Christ, which many people are celebrating today, Psalm 89 in our reading today helps us to understand how we can turn the thought about resurrection into worship and praise as it reveals various aspects of God. In Psalm 89, in verses 3 and 4, it says, I have cut a covenant with my chosen. I have sworn to David my servant, I will establish your seed forever and build up your throne from generation to generation. In these two verses is implied the resurrection, in that God had promised to David that he would have his throne established through his seed forever. And that was established and fulfilled through the resurrection of Christ. As Christ was of the seed of David, he was of the lineage of David, he was raised to live forever. And therefore, because he is living forever, he reigns forever. And therefore, he carries on the throne of David forever. And so this verse was fulfilled in the resurrection of Christ. But what this verse shows us also is how it's tied to the various attributes of God as it's embedded in that context. We have the love of God, the faithfulness of God, the power of God, and then the rule of God, just in these few verses that we read today. In verse 1, it talks about God's love. It says, I will sing of the loving kindness of Yahweh forever. And in verse 2, for I have said, loving kindness will be built up forever. And it was the love of God that brought this covenant about in the first place. Because God loved his people, because he loved David, he made this covenant and this promise that his throne would go on forever, which would include the resurrection. But then also the faithfulness of God. He says, in verse 1, the latter part of verse 1, he says, from generation to generation, I will make known your faithfulness with my mouth. The faithfulness of God is revealed through the resurrection of Christ. In other words, even though there were thousands of years that passed from the time that God had cut this covenant with David, still God's remained faithful to his word. And that's despite the fact that his people failed him time and time again. For hundreds of years they had failed him. And yet he was still faithful and fulfilling this covenant that he had cut with David by raising Christ up from the grave. So his faithfulness is revealed, but also his might as well. He talks about in verse 5, starting in verse 5, the heavens will praise your wonders, O Yahweh, your faithfulness also in the assembly of your holy ones. For who in the sky is comparable to Yahweh? Who among the sons of the mighty is like Yahweh? A God greatly dreaded in the council of the holy ones, and fearsome among or above all those who are around him. O Yahweh, God of hosts, who is like you, O mighty Yah? Your faithfulness also surrounds you. So you can see how faithfulness and his might are interwoven in these verses. But the might of God is also revealed through the resurrection of Christ. Obviously, the power of God was demonstrated by raising him up from the dead. But then also the rule of God is mentioned here in verse 9. You rule the swelling of the sea when its waves rise. You still them. You yourself crushed Rahab like one who is slain. You scattered your enemies with your strong arm. Rahab there being a reference to Egypt. But nonetheless, the rule of God being brought out here as well. And even the rule and the authority of God was brought out in the resurrection. After Christ was raised from the dead, he had revealed himself to his disciples and was about to ascend to the Father. He said, all authority has been given to me under heaven. And so he had been given all authority because he'd received it from the one who has all authority, from Yahweh. And so because of the rule of God, he was able to bring all of this about. He was loving enough to raise Christ from the dead. He was faithful to his covenants, therefore raised Christ from the dead. He was powerful enough to raise Christ from the dead. And then also he had the authority and the rule to raise Christ up from the dead. And all of these things work together intricately in the resurrection of Christ. So as we think about and meditate on the resurrection of Christ today, let's reflect on these various attributes of God. May the resurrection of Christ remind us of God's love, of his faithfulness, of his power, and of his authority. And if we can do that, it will lead us into a heart of worship and praise to him, and we'll be able to be drawn all that more closely to him as our worship progresses. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do a reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.